Hey, how are you doing? It's Kyle. So, if you saw any of my other videos on this jig, hopefully it's piqued your interest. So, I want to take this video and go in a little bit more in depth about this jig. And this is something I'm planning on selling or seriously considering selling. So, I would be selling this as a kit. So, let me explain what you would get in that kit. So, what you would get in that kit is two bases, a small base and a large base. You'll get 4 pieces of threaded rod. One's installed here. Of course, you get the end bearing, which is the heart of this jig. You would also get a center finder. Now, this center finder is probably going to look the same but be slightly redesigned. I think I have a better way of making this, and it's a little bit less clunky, so to speak. And then, of course, you will also get this 18-inch drill extension with a 1/2-inch coupler. And I'll go into more details about that in a minute. But first, let me talk about the bases. So, these bases are made out of maple, hard maple. They're threaded here. They're actually drilled out here to give you a range of adjustment. So, the small base has about a 2.5-inch range of adjustment with the threaded rods. The large base is 4.5 inches. Now, what I like to have is about 1/2 inch of the threaded rod in both the base and this end bearing. So that's kind of taunt. You might be able to get away with a little less, but for my measurements and calculating all this, 1/2 inch of threaded rod into each end of that minimally. Now, of course, it can go all the way down to the bottom. Now, the tapered tenon here is at a nominal or included 6-degree angle, so 3 degrees on each side. Now, if you're someone that uses the 11-degree mortise or tapered tenons, reach out to me. I think we can work something out. My only concern with that is the square drive screw here at the end for adjustment. And I'll get into that in just a second, but I think it should work. Now with that, talk a little bit about the end bearing here. So this end bearing, of course, it spins around. It's got basically a sphere in here that has a 1/2 inch hole drilled through it, and it spins around in there, and that gives you the ability to basically put this in a leg hole and get it pointed in the general direction of your other leg. And you will be able to, because it spins, be able to lock in at the exact angle you need to be at. So that gives you all kinds of flexibility there. Now, these rod end bearings were made for shafts to go through them and spin at high RPMs. So the threads that go in here are quite fine. This is 1/2 inch by 20 threaded rod. Great thing about that is it gives you all kinds of micro adjustability. So let me loosen up this this jam nut here, spin it down a little bit. So as you can see, you can get pretty fine measurements here as far as setting the height. So and then, like I said, this goes in here about 1 inch. I was almost bottomed out there. Back that off a little bit. Anyway, so that gives you great adjustability. Now, about the jam nuts, they just need to be finger tight and just cinch them up. No need to manhandle them, just cinch them up. Same thing with the bottom ones. Just loosen that up a little bit, and then when you get your adjustments done, just get that finger tight and just cinch it up. Now, the only downside, if you want to call it that, to this being 1/2 inch by 20 thread, is gross adjustments are somewhat tedious. I can do it real easy with the jam nut, just spinning it. But doing this, that can take a minute. So, like I said earlier, I put a square drive screw at the bottom of this, so you can just take a drill. I would recommend putting it on the clutch setting at the lowest you have, so when you bottom out, you don't break anything. But you can just put that in there, spin it back, spin it forward. So that gives you an easy way to make gross adjustments quickly and easily. And then just tighten that up. Like I said, finger tight, boom, you're done. Now let me talk a little bit about the shaft here. Now, you notice I said shaft, not drill extension. This is an extension for your drill, but it's not a drill rod extension. It is a 1/2 inch shaft. Now, what we found is you actually need the 1/2 inch shaft. A 1/2 inch drill rod will not work. The reason for that is, like I said, this is a bearing meant for a shaft to go through it. So a 1/2 inch shaft will fit in here and spin freely, and whereas a drill rod extension will not even fit in there. I think this is about 2/1000 undersized from a 1/2 inch. So the coupler, the 1/2 inch coupler here fits fine, and that comes with the kit, so it will fit 1/2 inch synced bits. So that means it's going to fit your 5/8 inch bit. Most of those are 1/2 inch synced, as well as a 1/2 inch bit that is 1/2 inch synced, and that will cover, I would say, 99.9% of your mortise needs for Windsor chairs. So the other thing I do want to mention while we're here is this little thing. Now this is a user-made jig, and I'm going to put out some videos for drilling an H stretcher, which will utilize this jig. Now the reason this is user-made is because you can put this at various heights, and it's relatively simple to make. There's no need for me to charge for something like this. All it is a, I got basically a 2x4 here, piece of wood, or I think it actually came from a 2x8, and I drilled and reamed a 90-degree perpendicular mortise in here, so that this fits right there, and it's perfectly at 90 degrees. Now, I did leave on there the marks I used to lay out the hole, so I got reference marks, and I can use those in future video. You'll see how I use those. And then I put it basically on this 3/4 inch plywood base. I relieved it here so that when you insert the jig, it's got some clearance here. And I made this wide enough that you can easily put a clamp on there to hold it securely in place. I'd recommend building one of these, and one of the reasons it's user-made is it's simple to do. Plus, you might want to make more than one of these at different heights or whatnot if you choose. So I'll show you how to use that in a future video. Let's review before we go. We get the 18-inch shaft drill extension with the 1/2 inch coupler, the center finder, of course the end bearing, the two bases, the small and the large one, as well as 4 threaded rods with jam nuts on 2 jam nuts per threaded rod on each of these, so they're easily interchangeable.